Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the infinite versions of our universe. Okay. Let's start off at the beginning. Well, the beginning of what is our observable universe, which was the Big Bang that happened 13.8 billion years ago. This is when our observable universe was born, which is finite, but the universe itself, which our universe is a small part of, is infinite and could have been born infinite. Since we can put a timeline on when our universe came into existence, which is that 13.8 billion years we just talked about, we can place a timeline on the things in our own universe. Everything in our universe is finite. But beyond our universe and the stars and galaxies and matter and all of that sciencey stuff is the universe, which would lead us to believe that there are many more infinite universes that are just like our own, but that are beyond our knowledge because of the fact that the speed of light, as well as the beginning of ours, the Big Bang, is finite. If there is an infinite amount of universe out there, then it only seems reasonable to believe that the same sort of creation of our finite universe happened an infinite amount of times. In our number 9 spot today, we have infinite universes. Piggybacking off of that last point, we have the fact that there just might be even more universes. Like, not just more of our kind of universe, but more of the universe. The Big Bang started off our universe, but it was not the beginning of everything. The Big Bang, which we all know happened when? 13.8 billion years ago, was the first time the universe could be described as hot, dense, and full of matter and antimatter and radiation and all of that. But there was stuff going on before that happened. Prior to the Big Bang, there was a period of cosmic inflation. This inflation leads to the growing of space-time, and this means that if that period occurred for an infinite amount of time, there could be an infinite amount of universes that are all finite, and one of these universes happens to contain ours. Does that make sense? This video really is all a person needs to feel exceptionally small and very insignificant. In our number 8 spot today, we have daughter universes. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. Let's try and make this the universe where this video has the most likes. Let's do it. This one is just a theory about if there are multiple parallel universes that exist and what they contain. This is where the theory of daughter universes comes into play. It is possible that multiple universes may follow the theory of quantum mechanics, which is how subatomic particles behave. Following the laws of probability, the daughter universes happen when you are faced with a decision. In our reality, you make your decision and it plays out one way, but in the daughter universes, they would each involve you making every other decision you could have made in that moment, which would then lead to whatever outcome that decision would have ended up leading to. This just means that there may be a universe for the opposite of every decision you've ever made in your life, and one for every decision anyone has ever made. How likely is this? I'm not sure, but if we ever find a way to jump to other universes, there goes the days of regret. In our number 7 spot today, we have bubble universes. For this one, we need to imagine our universe as a bubble, which it kind of is. The swelling bubble of our universe is just one bubble among many. Well, as we all now know, it is possibly just one among an infinite amount, all of which are swelling and expanding. All these bubbles make up the multiverse. This itself is of course just a theory that was made in an attempt to understand the origins and beginnings of our universe, but now it is being researched further. Physicists have begun studies on how and when universes might collide and bubble up together. I do understand that this is not concrete proof or evidence, but we wouldn't be researching it if it wasn't a possibility. This research could potentially lead us in the direction where we get to see some real proof, or at the very least, give us a better understanding into the theories of how multiple universes exist and how they could potentially interact with one another. In our number 6 spot today, we have the lack of evidence. This evidence is more so about the lack of evidence there is to say that the multiverse doesn't exist. Many scientists find the idea of the multiverse alarming or even unscientific because of the fact that there's no way for us to test for it. There is no way to make predictions that fall in line with data, and no way to really verify its existence, whether it's one parallel universe or an infinite amount. But there isn't really any evidence or data to support the theory that we are the only universe that exists. If our universe was created basically out of happenstance, what could stop another universe from being created at the same time or out of a similar happenstance? The idea and theory of the multiverse itself is relatively quite young and new, so it is possible that we will find the evidence to persuade most of us to one side or another, but as of right now, anything is possible. And maybe in another parallel universe, we already know all about the existence of this one. Maybe there's another me watching me make this video being like, oh, you don't know anything. In our number 5 spot today, we have the cold spot. The cold spot was first discovered in 2004, and it is basically just what it sounds like. It's an area in the universe that is slightly colder than that surrounding it. And when I say slightly, I really do mean very slightly. But when I call it an area, I'm talking about a huge one, as it is around 1.8 billion light years across. It was first believed that this area may be colder due to a lack of galaxies, but a newer study suggested that that is not possible, which led researchers down a different path in search of new theories as to why the cold spot exists. One of the most exciting is the theory that this may have occurred due to a collision between our universe and another bubble universe. A bubble universe is what we just spoke about in the last part, and they make up the multiverse, which would be the uncountable realms that all sit side by side, but that are in higher dimensions than our senses are able to interpret. This, of course, is a theory, and it will require a lot of time and research before we can say for certain, but it truly is kind of crazy to think that a huge, colder area of the universe could be due to a bump-in with another universe entirely. In our number 4 spot today, we have the CMB. After the Big Bang, it took around 300,000 years for things to cool down enough in order to allow atoms to form and to allow light to travel freely. This was known as the recombination, and during this time, that is when the cosmic microwave background began. The CMB is electromagnetic radiation that fills all of space, and while the space in between stars and planets and such may seem to be completely dark, the CMB is there and can sometimes, through sensitive enough technology, be seen as a kind of glow. So, how does this play into what we're talking about today? Well, scientists noticed a sort of bruise on the CMB during research, which left them wondering why. This is what led to this next parallel universe theory. If our universes are all like bubbles and one bumps into the other, it's possible that they may merge, even just for a second. This could cause some parts of one universe to spill into the other before eventually parting ways again, but this collision surely would leave some sort of a mark. And that mark just may be the bruise we saw in the CMB. In our number 3 spot today, we have the CMB Part 2. So you know what the CMB is now, and there's another thing we are looking for in it that might give us a sign of the multiverse. We thought we found evidence of this back in 2014, but it may have been a false detection, but we continue to look. Gravitational waves, which are ripples in space and time, are what we are looking for right now. The waves would have been left over from the Big Bang, and they could be putting tiny curls into the CMB. If found, this would prove the theory of cosmic inflation, which we discussed close to the beginning of this video in number 9, which would then lead us to the creation of multiple universes. It's all linked together in the most insane ways, but the universe is very cool and very complex. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Mandela effect. So, thinking about what we just talked about with the bruise and the CMB, and if our bubble universes really did collide with some other universe, and they had a moment where they may have been interconnected in some way, then this would explain the Mandela effect. If you don't know, the Mandela effect began being widely recognized when people began to swear that they could remember Nelson Mandela passing away in the 1980s. This is of course weird since he actually passed away in 2013. This time discrepancy had people obviously confused, and it has happened with many other things such as the Berenstain Bears, the movie Kazam, and honestly a whole bunch of things. There are many theories as to why the Mandela effect happens, and one of them certainly is the belief in multiple universes and some sort of crossover happening between the two. This, coupled with the possibility of colliding universes, is hard to comprehend, but it does kind of make sense. In our number 1 spot today, we have the strange particle. This might be the most concrete evidence, but we still don't really know what it means. This evidence came to us originally in 2016, but it took a few years for it to be interpreted in the way that might suggest the potential of a parallel universe. During experiments and research in the Antarctic, researchers captured what seemed to be the signal of a high-energy particle. This would be all well and fine except for the fact that instead of coming down from above, this particle seemed to be exploding out of the ground. Despite multiple attempts to explain why the signal was appearing this way, scientists were left with not a lot of options, and one of those has to do with the fact that this strange particle just may be proof of another parallel universe that is both exceptionally similar but also the complete opposite of our own. In order to explain this particle, there would need to be the existence of another universe that was created during the same Big Bang that created our own and exists in parallel with ours. But this universe would have to be a mirror of our own, where left is right and right is left and positive is negative and time runs backwards. It's both the most simple and most complex idea that all started with one tiny, strange particle.
Starting off this countdown, we have the boyfriend. So this individual claims to have dated a guy that never even existed. That puts a whole new meaning into imaginary boyfriend. So this woman was hanging out, catching up with her old pals from high school when she brought up her ex named Jeremy. But none of the friends knew who she was talking about. She dated Jeremy for 2 years and he was her high school sweetheart. They all went on group dates together and hung out a lot. But her friends were insistent that they didn't know anyone named Jeremy. The girl got upset and grabbed her yearbook to show them, but when she went through the pictures, she couldn't find Jeremy at all. So maybe she somehow went into an alternate dimension, one where Jeremy doesn't exist. In our 9th spot, we have Nelson Mandela. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Mandela effect, named after President Nelson Mandela. Well, it's said that many people remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, when in reality, he died in December of 2013. Paranormal researcher Fiona Broom was one of the individuals to remember Mandela dying at an earlier date. She said, and I quote, "I thought I remembered it clearly, complete with news clips of his funeral, the mourning in South Africa, some rioting in cities, and the heartfelt speech by his widow." Other people remember learning about Nelson Mandela's death in school in the 90s. It is crazy. So Nelson Mandela might have been one of those people that traveled to a different dimension. In one dimension, he died in the 1980s, and in the other, he died in 2013. Then it's somewhat believed that somehow one of these realities ended up washing over into ours, which is why some people remember him dying in the 1980s, while others say he died in 2013. In our 8th spot, we have the road trip. Posted on Reddit by the user Musical Moses, he described the time that him and his friends were transported into an alternate dimension. So him and a couple of friends were returning home from a road trip. He just got off the phone with his parents and told them that they would be home in about 25 minutes. However, as they continued driving, they rounded a corner and the road ahead of them was completely empty. There were no cars ahead or no cars behind them. He then claims that everything went black for a moment. The dashboard lights and the headlights turned off. Even the music stopped playing. Then everything went back to normal. The CD restarted from the beginning and they now could see a car ahead of them, which wasn't there a second ago. Now, the guy just shook it off, thinking that he fell asleep and woke up later on. But the other passengers in the car all experienced the same thing, even the driver. The scariest thing of all, when they arrived home, the house looked a little different. There was now a tree on the front lawn that was never there before. Not only that, but the clock revealed that they arrived home an hour later, when they were only 25 minutes away. So they lost an hour of time and don't know what happened. So they believe that they somehow ended up in an alternate dimension. And apparently it only took an hour to get there. Making our way down the list, number 7, we have the black dog. Posted on Reddit by the user TShopko, he believes that his entire family is now living in an alternate dimension. So it started a couple years ago when he was going through old photos at his parents' house. That's when he discovered a picture that he took of his daughter sitting in a chair eating. But in the photo, there appears to be a black dog begging his dad for some food. Here's the thing. He doesn't know whose dog that is, and none of his family members know whose dog that is. Then they found another photo. It was of their cat laying on their bed next to the same black dog. What's weird is that their cat hated dogs. It would take her a long time to warm up to them, meaning this dog must have been around for a long time. But no one recognizes it or remembers it. So theory goes that their reality has somehow changed, or their entire family somehow went to another dimension, one where they owned a black dog. In our 6th spot, we have the Death. So what I've learned from these stories so far is that you'll know when you're in an alternate dimension when things around you have changed slightly. Your parents might not have buttons for eyes like in Coraline, but you'll be able to tell that things are off. So in this next story, the narrator swears that she died and came back to life in another dimension. The girl was going through a lot and tried to take her own life. All she remembers is everything going black and then seeing red and blue flashing lights. But the next morning, she woke up fine, as if nothing happened. But to this day, she knows that something isn't right about the life that she's living. Something's off. She knows for a fact that she died that night. Now, she's living in another reality. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the cookies. This story was posted on Reddit by the user DarkItSoon. So a couple of weeks ago, her dad came to her house and brought her favorite cookies, which she ate in a couple days. No shame, I'd do that too. Then a couple days later, her mom brought over some more cookies and told her to try not to finish them in a couple days this time. But the cookies were some she had never seen or tried before. When she tried them, she didn't like them, which confused her mom. Her mom was insistent that they were the cookies that she always buys and loves. The girl was confused, so she called up her dad and he even confirmed it. He said that the cookies he brought her were the same kind. What the heck? So like now even cookies taste different in alternate dimensions? I don't even know. In our 4th spot, we have McDonald's. Posted on Reddit by the user NinjaNerdBGM, he shared the time that he got transported to another dimension while getting McDonald's. Some of these stories would make a great plot for a film. Maybe not this one though. So it was late at night and he decided to go out to get some McDonald's. So he took his dog with him and headed out. But on the way there, his dog got really scared and cowered under the seat. His tail was behind his legs and the hair was raised on his back. The man kept going, but when he arrived at McDonald's, he noticed that the building was very different. It was much bigger than before. Anyways, he pulled in and ordered. When he got to the window and tried to pay with his credit card, the cashier said that they don't accept cards. So he proceeded to pay with cash. Except they didn't give him back his change. Instead, they gave him a voucher with the amount they owed him on it. Pretty odd. While getting his meal, the cashier hands him the bag of food and just freezes for a second, holding the bag. Then all of a sudden the man feels a wave of electricity come over him, and just like before, his dog starts to cower under the seat. When the wave ends, he noticed that he is now in the McDonald's parking lot, not drive-thru. His food, $20, and voucher were all gone. But at least he was back at his normal McDonald's. Super weird, but at least we know that they have McDonald's in alternate dimensions. Moving on at number 3, we have the coworker. Okay, so this next story really tripped me out. So a woman was headed to her job of 8 years, but when she arrived, her coworker was not there. In her place was a man. She asked him who he was and he started laughing and said, "Come on, Tracy, you know me." Tracy was creeped out, as anyone would be. But this dude was insistent that he had been working with Tracy for 4 years. Tracy went to the back staff room and sure enough, there were pictures of this dude at the company's holiday party. Scariest part? There was even a photo of him and Tracy smiling looking at the camera. But she had no recollection of him at all. She had been working there for years with a female coworker who just suddenly disappeared. So theory goes that Tracy ended up in an alternate dimension, meaning her coworker is probably wondering where Tracy went. She's probably just as confused as Tracy. In our 2nd spot, we have the rearrangement. This story was posted on Reddit by the user Echo Green. About 3 years ago, he was over at his friend's house helping him renovate his kitchen. 2 weeks later, he went back to his friend's house, but noticed that the setup was rearranged. The sink was where the oven was, and the oven was close to the washing machine. Side note, who on earth has their oven right next to their washer? I don't know. Anyways, he then asked his friend why he rearranged his kitchen, and he said that he didn't. That it's been like that for the longest time. But that's not all. That night he went out walking his dog at a nearby park and noticed benches along the edge of a field that had never been there before. The thing is, these benches weren't new ones, they looked pretty old. He went on with his day and found more things had been moved out of place, like trees and streetlights. So this dude is convinced that he somehow ended up in a parallel dimension. I mean, what else can explain all these items switching positions? Like, appliances and benches, sure, but streetlights? Who's out there moving those? And in our number 1 spot, we have hide and seek. This next story revolves around 2 brothers playing an innocent game of hide and seek. One of the brothers, I'm gonna name him Timmy, who was 9 at the time, was hiding, while his older brother, I'm gonna name him John, was 12 at the time and he was it. So Timmy was hiding in a closet for 30 minutes before realizing that his brother probably stopped playing the game. He was annoyed and went to the living room to watch TV. Hours went by and John was nowhere to be found. He then decided to go outside and look for him, but there was still no sign of him. He went back into the house and there his brother was, sitting in his spot watching TV. John was mad and asked him where he went. John claims that he was looking for him but ended up giving up. He called for Timmy to come out of his hiding spot, but he didn't, so he gave up and watched TV. But he was adamant that he had been sitting there watching TV just like his brother. That's freaky, like they were both at the same spot at the same time, both watching TV, yet they couldn't even see each other. Yeah, one of those brothers went to an alternate dimension somehow.
Alright, coming in at number 10, we have the deep space radio bursts. Mystery fast radio bursts were discovered in 2007. These bursts flash for a micro instant but emit more energy than the sun does in 10,000 years. The high energy surges of long waves have been detected 18 times over the past 10 years, and one burst in 2012 recorded in Puerto Rico occurred numerous times in the same pattern. Okay, this is what it sounded like. After fierce debates and a lot of head scratching, the source of the sound was traced to a microgalaxy 3 billion light years away from Earth. A lot of theorists have concluded that the sound is a space signal from another world or a parallel universe looking to get in touch. Coming in at number 9, we have the man from Taurid. Were we sent a man from another parallel universe, or did he arrive via some kind of portal or vortex? Our story here stems back to 1954 when a man was detained at the Japanese border after arriving on a plane from Europe to Haneda Airport. The man said he was on his 3rd business trip to Japan that year, and he had a wallet filled with a mixture of currencies, seeming to verify his business traveller status. When he presented his passport, officials were absolutely baffled, asking where he was from. Now, the man, who primarily spoke French, said, "Taurid. Where is this mystery place?" He showed his passport again and the stamps that supported his travels. The only thing is, nobody had ever heard of Taurid. The company he was travelling to said that they'd never heard of him, and he was carrying a checkbook to a non-existent bank. When he was asked to point out Taurid on the map, he pointed to where Andorra is today and seemed confused and offended to be told that it's not a real country. He was detained in a hotel overnight while Japanese authorities decided what to do with him, but by morning he disappeared. Did he accidentally walk through a portal to another universe? Maybe. Coming in at number 8, we have the Bernstein-Bears phenomena. Also called the Mandela effect, the Bernstein-Bears phenomena claims to prove the existence of parallel universes with subtle differences. People vehemently claim that the Bernstein-Bears were spelled with an E and not an A, and honestly, I for one absolutely thought that the Looney Tunes were the Looney Tunes until I watched a video on the phenomena last year, and now I'm straight up convinced that I'm living in the wrong universe, as it is clearly Looney Tunes. They're cartoons. This new world doesn't make any sense. Some people out there are also adamant that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the late 1980s, which is more than just a slightly altered timeline. It's not just spellings here, this is a pretty major parallel universe event. Coming in at number 7, we have Deja Vu. Deja vu, a glitch in the Matrix, or a signal from a parallel universe. While both seem as likely as one another, it is thought by some that the weird moments where we feel like we've been or experienced something before are actually signals that something key is happening in our parallel lives. Not only do some people believe parallel universes exist side by side, some people think they interact with one another in some way. According to Dr. Michio Kaku, an American futurist, deja vu occurs as a result of a person's ability to flip between universes. Others believe it is because we're vibrating in unison with the frequency of another universe that's parallel with our very own. Oh, I've gone cross-eyed. Coming in at number 6, we have the Lost Beatles album. A parallel universe may have given our world a gift in the form of a Lost Beatles album, Everyday Chemistry. The story goes that in 2009, a man called James Richards found himself accidentally in a parallel universe, as you do. Luckily, there was also a person from another parallel universe there, a man named Jonas. Now, Jonas was on a trans-dimensional tourism trip from the other Earth, and he told Richards that in his world, amongst other things, John Lennon was still alive and the Beatles never broke up. Richards then stole a copy of a later album never released by the band and returned with it to our Earth. What did he do with one of the most sought after pieces of music from a non-history that almost but never happened here? He uploaded it to the internet. Eagle-eared fans were absolutely having none of it though. They said the album is comprised of clever mashups from all of the Beatles' solo careers. Richards later said that even though in an alternate universe the Beatles hadn't broke up, that didn't mean their future music ideas disappeared. I'm not so sure about this one, but I would love to hear what Paul McCartney has to say about it. Paul, tell us, is it real? I guess you're living in another universe so you don't know, but I don't know. I feel like you'd be able to answer. Coming in at number 5, we have dreams. Could our dreams be signals from a parallel universe? Some say maybe. In a number of First Nations cultures in North and Central America, people believe that dreams allow us to walk planes in other dimensions. Their reasoning is that dreams take place in color and can include all of their senses. They think that when you're in a dream, you are in another world, perhaps a world you already exist in. If you're doing something strange in your dream, maybe it's a sign that actually you live a far stranger life somewhere else. Coming in at number 4, we have the bruise. Anyone else here bruised like a peach? Just me? Me? And the universe. In 2010, along with a team of researchers, Stephen Feeney of the University College in London announced that he had discovered patterns in the radiation background left over from the Big Bang. Now, this seemed to suggest that our universe bumped into not 1, not 2, but 4 other universes and was left bruised. Okay, what is the plural of universes? Universi? Universi? Universi. Also, from the bruising, further researchers in California think that it is clear that this leads to some kind of like bubble universe theory, which maybe I can get on board with. Maybe Men in Black got it right when they imagined us all as marbles in a big bag. Coming into number 3, we have the cold spot. In 2004, astronomers found something that baffled them, an unusually cold area of space. The area is 1.8 billion light years across and much colder than its surroundings. The area also contained 10,000 less galaxies than in other areas of a similar size studied in space. A researcher from Durham University in the UK believed that the spot could be evidence of a multiverse. They said it seemed as if a parallel universe smashed into ours, affecting it like a car pile-up on the motorway would, only they're calling it a cosmic shunt. They believed the impact was so vast it pushed energy out from a big region of space, therefore creating the cold spot. It's hard to get your head around, but that is what they think. Coming in at number 2, we have City in the Sky. In October 2015, Chinese TV went wild when thousands of residents in 2 areas of the country reported seeing a huge floating city in the clouds. Puzzled onlookers saw skyscrapers in the clouds and believed that they were seeing a ghost city or the colliding of our reality with a parallel universe. The phenomenon occurred in both Guangdong and Jiangxi, with some believing it was the beginning of an alien invasion. The images were caught on camera for the world to see and promptly went viral across the rest of the globe. So what on Earth or above Earth is going on? Well, even though it looks like a city in the clouds to you and me, apparently it is an optical illusion called Fata Morgana, which is a natural mirage. So that is what a lot of scientists are saying anyway, but other people are convinced it's a sign of a parallel universe or even a window to another world. Finally, coming into number 1, we have black holes. The theory of loop quantum gravity suggests that there is no point of singularity in a black hole, rather there simply folds in the universe. Everything we know about quantum physics tells us that information is never lost, that energy can't be created or destroyed, so perhaps black holes don't suck and destroy, maybe they suck and create. A lot of scientists are dabbling with the idea that black holes are indeed folds or portals to an older part of the universe. Professor Stephen Hawking gave a lecture in 2015 wherein he discussed how it may be possible to come out of the other side of a black hole. He said the hole would need to be large, and if it was rotating, it might have a passage to another universe, but you couldn't come back to our universe. Anyone want to take that one-way trip? I don't know if I do.